All right. All right, there we go. All right, so hi everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk. This is Until Then, meta-narrative Postmortem. So who here has played Until Then? Right, okay, awesome. All right, if you don't know Until Then, I'm going to explain it a little bit later. Okay. First of all, thank you to Guadalindie for the opportunity to talk here, to talk something about that's very dear to my heart, which is storytelling that's unique to video games. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic in general. So, okay, let's start. So a little bit about me. I'm Mickole. I wear a lot of hats for Until Then. I'm the director, writer, programmer, tech artist. These days, I do like low-level programming as a break from game dev because I've been working on this for 7 years. So, yeah. And then I love factory games. I love Factorio. So I'm starting a company where I'm making computer peripherals. So I'm kind of like making a factory game for myself in real life now. So yeah, I guess that's where my life is going. All right, so what this talk is about. This is about how video games are a unique storytelling medium, not just as a medium itself, but like what kind of stories are we able to tell that other kinds of media, like movies, books, are not able to tell, because there's something inherently unique about video games. And of course, before I talk about our own game, I'm going to talk about other games that have also, attacked this. Like they have like a spectrum of different approaches on how we do this, and they're all very exciting. So, of course, we're also going to talk about how Until Then did it, and this being an experimental stage. Of course, I wanted to talk, since this is a postmortem, I wanted to talk about what our expectations were and how did it actually turn out after all this experimenting with fourth wall breaking, with meta-narratives. All right, so this is going to be a big spoiler city. Hopefully you should have played all these by now, since they're at least 10 years old, I think. But yeah, just massive spoiler alert here. Yes, you may leave. That's totally fine. That's totally acceptable. Yes, these are all great experiences. So if you want to experience them for yourself, you may leave. All right. It's completely fine. All right. So I warned you. So okay, let's begin. All right. So first, video games as a unique storytelling medium, they're interactive, not like movies where you passively watch, books where you also read. Sure, there's an exception, like CYOA books, right? Choose your own adventure books. But, video games, they're like, it's really baked into the medium. It's not like an alternative version of the medium. It really is what it is. So they're interactive. They have choices. Not necessarily in the form of story choices, but they can be like the things that you do from moment to moment. Of course, we have game mechanics, interactivity, gameplay. And here's the cool part about for where we're going to. They're stateful, and they can track state. So we can use that to our advantage if we want to do storytelling in video games, multiple endings, and most importantly, breaking the fourth wall, meta-narratives. And this is also a cool one. They're replayable and can know if being replayed. Most games don't really bother about this, maybe to an extent like New Game Plus. Like the game knows you're playing it, and it kind of improves or changes, alters some aspects of the game. But if we're doing like a meta-narrative, we can really exploit this and make it like affect the story in a notable way. So yes, we are not only writing for video games, we're writing on top of how video games work. Like we're standing on the foundations of what makes a video game here, and we're writing on top of that. So that's what we're doing here. That's what we're going through. So yes, what if we use the nature of the medium itself as a storytelling device? So OK, we're going through these 4 games before we explore ours, and I'm no scientist, and this is, of course, loosey-goosey. There could be other interpretations or like spectra of how you can arrange these fourth wall breaking games. But this is kind of how I organize mine, and I think it makes sense for me. There is one point I want to drive home, is that when you think of fourth wall breaking games, you might think of something like a character saying that we're in a video game. That's very explicit, right? And you know it's immediately fourth wall breaking, but it doesn't have to be that way. So yes, implicit versus explicit. To what extent is the game self-aware that it's a game? Because, as I will show later, there are actually games where they don't say, we're in a video game. There are examples where they don't do that, but at the same time, they actually kind of break the fourth wall. So you can either be implicit or explicit. Does the game acknowledge its self-aware nature to the player, and how much so? And then the other axis, which thing does it deconstruct more? Is it the genre or is it the mechanics? If it's the genre, that's not going to be unique to games. It's storytelling in general, like how in some movies or books you think it's just a regular romance film, but then it flips itself on its head and does something different. So it's not unique to games, but it's also something, of course, that games can do in this context. Mechanics. OK, now this one is unique to games. It deconstructs the mechanics that the game introduced and recontextualizes what those mechanics mean. So we'll get to an example. But sometimes they can both actually be deconstructed. That's why there's something in between there, like Undertale and Life is Strange. OK, so first, DDLC. Who has played this here? All right, I'm seeing a lot of hands. OK, that's good. So you know that this game is extremely self-aware. And by the way, for those who haven't played this yet, it's presented as a cute dating sim, the typical type, visual novel. But then something happens at some point. For those who have played it, you know what it is. But yeah, something grim and horrible happens at some point of this game. And after that point, it just announces to the player that this is a video game. As you can see in that screenshot, like there's text corrupted, there's sprites corrupted, and one character here acknowledges that. This character down there acknowledges that she deleted or messed up with the files. So she knows that she's in a game. That is extremely self-aware. So we're going to put this in the, of course, the explicit side. Another thing is it really is self-aware. It uses the computer, the operating system, because in Windows, if you're a game and you're running on Windows, you can ask Windows, hey, what's the current account that's logged in? What's the username? And Windows can just give that to any program or a game. And the game will actually, like, your name is John or something like that, right? Even though you didn't say anything to the game. So, and it also could know if you're streaming. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, for the other axis, deconstruction, what is it actually deconstructing? It's, as I said, it is presented as a cute girl dating sim VN at first. But then it deconstructs that, flips it on its head, that this is like a stage that was set by the character down there that is obsessed for you. So that is kind of like the premise of this game. So yeah, it also kind of deconstructs its mechanics, but mostly through being increasingly more self-aware. So it goes kind of hand in hand with that. So, but yeah, I would argue that it deconstructs its genre more than mechanics. OK, next example, Undertale. It's, firstly, who has played Undertale here? OK, most of you guys, OK. So Undertale, for those who haven't played, it's, we have a common theme going on here where I'm saying how it's presented, like on Steam, or at face value. Like, this game is presented as an ordinary RPG. I believe that's how it was marketed at first. But then what made this game really special was there is like a twist at some point. Apparently, you are not supposed to kill the enemies here, which is like a subversion of what you expect from RPGs, right? So I'm skipping straight to the second point here, that it deconstructs its genre. And the way it does that is, if you haven't played the game yet, one character explains like the terms to you. In these games, XP is usually experience points, right? But then the character explains that they actually stand for execution points. So all that XP you've been accumulating, it's like, apparently it's a bad thing that you've been accumulating them. So that's when it gets deconstructed. Like, everything you've been doing in this game has been suddenly recontextualized. So that's what I meant by mechanics deconstruction. Everything suddenly gets recontextualized at one point. And also, it's explicit, like the last game. It knows if you're already playing the game or reinstalling it even. It knows that the UI is there, and the characters can kind of be like omniscient gods and mess with the UI, actually control the UI elements in the game. That screenshot at the top, those buttons below, fight, act, item, mercy, and the heart there is your player. You're supposed to avoid those bones, but those bones are outside the playing area. So even while you're choosing what to do, you're actually kind of fighting while you're navigating the UI. So that is very explicit, right? Like, it's manipulating the game. It's going outside the box. OK, next example, Life is Strange. Now we delve into games that are not so explicit, and hopefully you get to see how it still manages to break the fourth wall or tell a meta story without actually proclaiming that, I know I'm in the game. So one example of that is Life is Strange. It has little to no self-awareness. I don't think it made any jokes or any references that it's in a game. But it deconstructs its genre of choices matter stories. What I mean by choices matter stories is games like the ones by Telltale Games. What else? Telltale Games. I forgot what. But yes, choices matter games. Like when. Oh, right. I remembered, because it's so similar to our game's name. Until Dawn. Has anyone played that here? Yeah, right? So yes, so these games have a very branching path for their story. So you have two choices, and then it leads to two different branches, and so on. It's like a butterfly effect. Your choices really matter in these games. Now, what Life is Strange does is it presents you choices, but it doesn't really branch the way those games do. It uses that existing knowledge that these games exist, and they play with your expectations that something's going to change. But the theme of this story is that time travel is messy, messing with your life, with how the future or the present is supposed to go, is not exactly how you would want to live life. That is the core theme of this game. So in service of that theme, that is what they did. They gave you choices, but this is life. You're not really God. You don't control your destiny. And so in the end, almost none of their choices mattered. Whether you like that or not is up to you. But I think they did a good job of taking that brave element of taking that brave decision and marrying it with the intention of the story or the author. So yeah, I would say this is more of a genre deconstruction, mechanics not so much. Okay, and for our last example, Mother 3. There's bits of self-awareness. Who here has played Mother 3, by the way? Okay, not a lot, but I'm sad about that because this is my favorite among all of these. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to spoil this for you, but it's really good. Even if I spoil it and you have the chance to play it, still please do because it's amazing. Anyway, this game is almost not self-aware. It doesn't do anything crazy like Undertale or Doki Doki do. There's bits of self-awareness, like it makes jokes sometimes in the tutorial setting, like a character saying, "You're supposed to press A, whatever that is. I don't know who told me that." Something like that. It makes jokes like that, but they're not actually relevant to anything else. I think it's just there for tutorial, just poking fun. So yes, I would say it's implicit, even though it pokes fun at it being a game. It's not really relevant to everything else. This is what's cool about this game because it doesn't try hard to be a meta-narrative. So let me explain what happens here. This is the ending. We're getting right to the ending. And this is the part where all who have finished Mother 3 cry like crazy, like me too. You're playing as Lucas, and you're playing as Lucas, and this is your brother. You don't know he's your brother yet, but shortly after this, it's going to be revealed that he's actually your long-lost brother, and you're actually fighting him. And so you're like, after so many hours of grinding in this RPG, this is your brother. And that's emotional, especially after it deconstructs one of its mechanics. Because this game is otherwise a very normal RPG. It does nothing like special at the game level, I would say. But what it does here is there's this item called a Franklin badge, where if someone attacks Lucas using a lightning bolt, something electricity, it will be reflected. And it just so happens that his brother, you don't know that yet, attacks you with electricity, and then you inadvertently kill your brother. So it might not sound emotional right now because of the lack of context, but if you know the context, yeah, it's very heavy. So yeah, it deconstructs. It suddenly flips something, the meaning of something, of what you've been doing the entire time in the game. Like, this Franklin badge is presented as something that's very powerful in the game. I loved using it, but then when this part came, I hated it. So yes, recontextualization. That's how it did the meta-narrative thing. All right, so finally we get to our own game and where it stands against or compared to these examples. Who here, again, has played until then, sorry? All right, cool. Thank you. So actually, finishing this game has different meanings. Who here has played all of Until Then? Okay, so you guys have really finished this game. Because Until Then, in Until Then, for those who haven't played, replaying is a narrative device. We made replaying a narrative device. Now, what do I mean by that? You start out the story, playthrough 1. Pretend you don't know that, but I'm just showing it to you, the story structure. Playthrough 1, and then the credits roll, and then that's supposedly it. Like, credits roll, that's where the game ends. But we kind of made it like a sort of a secret that if you replay the game, there's more. There's actually 2/3 of the game, kind of more. So you have to kind of play this game 3 times to get to the true ending. Now this sounds kind of pretentious. This sounds kind of dumb. Like, why are we doing this? So there's a pattern with all of these games, right? Like, why are they doing what they're doing? There must be a purpose, right? And if you can tell, yes, there is. If you have played these games and take a moment to think why they're doing this, it's all in the service of their own stories. And I would argue that these stories are only possible in video games because interactivity, knowing when it's replayed, these are such good examples of how we can use the nature of video games and serve as an integral element in your story, to serve the story. So yes, what is Until Then's purpose then? Well, why is it doing this? Okay, so first of all, where is it in implicitness? It's very implicit. We don't really acknowledge that it's a game. And then for deconstruction, yes, it has some deconstruction. Especially inspired by Life is Strange, where we present choices, but they don't actually have any effects like Until Dawn or Telltale games do. I'll get to that more in a bit. And we have mechanics deconstruction. If you can call game replaying as a mechanic, then you could argue that we're also recontextualizing the game once you replay. So yeah, Until Then, replaying the game is a choice on its own. For this to work, the game has to make sense if you end at the first playthrough, and it also has to make sense if you end at any of these. So we made it a choice, and I think that's what you could argue that's what makes it a mechanic in a way. So yeah, for it to work, replaying the game must make sense story-wise, and not replaying the game must make sense story-wise. So for those who haven't played, I'll give you a short summary of what happens here. In playthrough 1, your best friend dies in a way that is horrible. So you obviously do not want it to happen as a player. So like, our thought process was like this. Okay, something terrible has happened, and we must kind of make the player believe that they have the power to change this. That's why we have choices in the game. Similar to Life is Strange, we have choices in the game, kind of like presented as something that might change the path of the game, but no, it doesn't really. But that's cool, because the choices are there for a purpose. Not to do something like Until Dawn does, but to convince the player that there are more, something like that they can change what's going to happen. A difference to Life is Strange is that Life is Strange does not incorporate this, but we kind of expanded on that by actually convincing you that to replay and that there's more, something like that. So given that context, again, why? Why are we doing this? Why do we have to kind of hide that we have actually 2/3 more of the content and you're just playing 1/3 of it? So yeah, Until Then is a story about acceptance, moving on. And when we had this idea for the game, we just wanted like a story about acceptance that wouldn't be possible in any other medium. So you watch a movie about maybe grief, acceptance, going through the stages of grief. That's cool, that's very effective. But in video games, we wanted to do something different, so that's why we came up with this game, where replaying kind of speaks to you as a person in your playing experience. Because if you decide to replay it, that could kind of mean that you have not accepted the ending. We don't make the ending just like your best friend dies, that's it. We don't make it that grim. We present it with a glimmer of hope and like a message that things are not really gonna go the way they're supposed to go. You're not like God, you can control it. So like, if you haven't kind of learned that lesson yet, if you haven't accepted that yet, you would be inclined to replay. But if not, that is also a very valid experience. It is designed that way, that not replaying the game makes sense story-wise, because if you don't replay, you have accepted the ending, you have accepted the outcome, and I mean, that's the theme, right? You've basically gotten the message. So, yeah, this is an excerpt from our GDD. This is like the unique selling point we pitched when we were looking for a publisher, and yeah, this is like the core part, one of the core parts of the game from a storytelling perspective. So yes, all that said, here's our graph. I don't know where until then is. It could be up there or down there, depending whether you see replaying a game as a mechanic. But regardless, we're somewhere there. Obviously inspired by Life is Strange, a little bit of Mother 3. All of these games are actually inspirations. That's why I made them examples. So, all right. That's the theory, right? Like, it sounds cool and all, but for those who haven't played it, there's a risk that this might not work. So if you're interested in making a story that breaks the fourth wall or does something meta, yeah, we'll walk through some of our expectations and what actually went down. So, yeah. From authorial intent, the decision to replay or not should come from the player. This is what I talked about earlier. Influenced merely by their feelings after playing. So, yeah, again, from like the GDD, the purpose of why we're doing this, we really wanted it to come from the player. We didn't want it to be influenced by like a prompt or a message saying that there's more. We wanted it to be raw, in a way, so to speak. Unfortunately, yeah, commercial feasibility, commercial stuff. The publisher, when I explained it to them, they respected the intent, but they wanted all the content to be somewhat more accessible, because the original plan was to not have any prompt at all. In the final game, we have this prompt after you supposedly finish the game. Continue, yes or no. We didn't want to do this at first, but we gave in, and in the end, it's successful. It has been successful in getting more players to actually access that content. So hindsight is 2020. This was like an artistic trade-off where we just had to do it for feasibility and have the content be more accessible in a way. And this is something we totally did not expect. But again, in hindsight, it's not surprising. Since the game made such an emotional impact on many players after going through all 3 playthroughs, you would have fans. Of course, you would have a community around it. And there would be posts on our Reddit saying, "I've finally finished the game." And then the replies would be, "Have you? Have you actually? Like, which ending are you?" So it creates this. It created this situation, and it's very regular. It happens all the time, where someone claims that they finished a game, but they're saying no, you haven't. So even though this does not actually align with our intent, as authors. In a way, this has been good because, again, it exposes the player to more of the content that we made. But like, if you're really an uncompromising author and you want your intent to be really, just that, there is a risk that this will happen. Whether you perceive this as a good thing or not depends up to you. Depending on how uncompromising you are on your vision. We were flexible enough, but. Yeah, it is somewhat successful. We did not get entirely what we want from an artist perspective, but in the end, it has worked out very well. Fun fact: Playthrough 1 has been finished by 2/3 of players only, and only 1/3 of players have actually finished the entire thing. That's still a lot. Like, for example, you have 100,000 players or 1 million. That's still a lot, right? That's like 300,000 or something. But without these compromises, maybe we would have landed at 1/10 or even less. So yeah, it was a trade-off, but now realizing it, it's a good kind of trade-off for us. Okay, expectation number 2. All playthroughs would be equally engaging. Of course, we wanted to create this impactful experience, right? So each playthrough would have to be impactful or engaging. Yeah, the reality is it was polarized. Reception of later playthroughs is polarized. I would say that this is not on, we're not talking about meta storytelling here, we're talking about general writing or storytelling here, because they did like the whole meta thing about multiple playthroughs and replaying. They did actually like that, but what some did not like is it was inconsistent. Some found later playthroughs to be less strong than the first one. If you want to know the reason for that, mostly it's standing on soft sci-fi foundation. So we explained, by the way, we explained the playthrough replaying mechanism using sci-fi, basically time loops. Think of it as time loops. And we are not so good at fantasy in terms of writing. We just stick to mostly slice of life, magical realism, but not like hard rules sort of fantasy. That's why we had this sort of a very soft sci-fi foundation that some players did not just find convincing. And another thing was, I guess this is a matter of preference, the first playthrough was very character-driven, very slice of life, almost no sci-fi elements. But then when we started going through the time loops, some players felt that, yes, we were kind of explaining why we're doing this through sci-fi, but like, why did we suddenly jump from characters crying or like getting together, character interactions? Why did we jump from that to explaining stuff? So yeah, for some, the shift was jarring in terms of tone. So yeah, in a way, we failed here. Again, this is not really related to like the meta storytelling we're talking about, but it's more general storytelling. Even though this has failed, it actually works out in the end with the next one, because apparently how we intended it to be impactful all throughout as a whole. Yeah, it's been very successful. So for those who've played, I'm sorry for how we made you feel. but yeah, I think we've been very successful with the reviews we've gotten, and we still get consistent fan mail, email about how it changed their lives, how it gave them like a new perspective on life because of this very grand undertaking of a story. So yeah, if you kind of disregard for a moment the small things about the shifting in tone and stuff like that, if you view the whole experience as an entirety, as the whole thing, then generally it's been received as impactful, and that's very good. That's like one of the best outcomes you could hope for. So yes, in general, yeah, and as a whole, we've been successful. The game has been successful at doing that. So, okay, some conclusions, some final thoughts. These meta storytelling things, I know they sound cool and all, but they're not really supposed to be like a thing that you have to think of first when making a story. Like, okay, I'm going to write a story. I want it to have meta elements. I would argue not to go for that, because that could be like a bad way of approaching writing, because you're focused on doing some cool things first without first figuring out why you're doing that in the first place. Again, hopefully you've learned that on all these examples I gave, they all have a purpose, and it drives the story. It's not just like a gimmick or a side thing that is not really relevant to the story. No, it's tied to the story. It's integral to the story. So before you do anything meta, I know it sounds cool, think of your goals first. Like in that GDD, right? We wanted to write a story about acceptance that only works in video games because you can replay it and stuff. So yes, if you're going to write something like that, think of your fundamentals first before doing anything mentioned in this talk. Next is highly meta themes are abstract, risky, and easily overlooked. Don't solely rely on them. What I'm referring to is this. Because our goal was to, the decision to replay must come from the player. But this is not coming from the player. This is coming from the community. This is coming from others. If you really think of what we intended to do here, which is, again, this, we wanted to make a story where you own the choice, where we don't want anyone to tell you whether to accept the ending or not. You must own the choice whether you accept the ending or not. But yeah, that didn't happen because I've come to realize that GDD, that thing in the GDD, is very abstract. It's it's such a high level of a goal that it can be overlooked. I've seen some very cool reviews acknowledging that this is what we are trying to do, and I appreciate that. But that's only like 5% or less of the players. So if you're going to do things like that, where you have if you have an abstract goal, make sure that, I guess, that's not your core focus, and that, most importantly, don't solely rely on them. What we did for Until Then is, sure, we have this very abstract goal on our GDD, but we made sure to go down the abstract ladder and do concrete things in terms of the story to get that point out as much as we can. So yeah, I guess before you do anything extremely clever, make actual concrete steps on how you're going to get there. It's not going to work 100% like I just showed you there, but yeah, if you solely rely on them, that could be a disaster. And most importantly, whether implicit or explicit, meta or not, strong foundations always come first. Stick to the basics and just create an experience. In the end, it doesn't really matter whether your game acknowledges that it's in a game or not. Because in the end, if you look at an experience as a whole, with all these elements that you're trying to do, weaved across one another, if it clicks, if it works. So just stick to the basics, and just create a compelling, impactful experience. Maybe none of this matters. Maybe you wouldn't use any of these meta elements in your own story. But again, the core goal should just be creating an experience that would last with players a long time, even after the credits roll. So thank you. All right, questions?
Hello. First of all, I really enjoyed the game, so thank you for making it.
Thank you.
I was curious, you mentioned your original plan was to not have the continue prompt.
Yeah.
What was the plan instead? How would the player get to the second playthrough in this kind of brave version of the game?
Right. So what we originally wanted to do was nothing at all. The credits, there would be credits, the credits would roll, and then you go back to the main menu. The only indicator that there would be that there would be more to the game. You know how when you finish a game, you would see new game in the main menu, right? After the credits. Most of the time, I guess it works like that. But the indicator we wanted to make was, instead of new game appearing after the credits roll, it would be continue on the main menu, right? So it's not a prompt. It's something that is not catching your attention or not the main focus. So that's what we wanted to do at first.
Ambitious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, also, I wanted to add that continue is a very important word in the universe of Until Then. So, like, in a way, we're not just saying continue the game, but like continue living in a way, because the game is very hopeful about that. That we may not understand each other every time, but the effort to do it consistently is what gets us through every day. But yeah, I just wanted to say that continue actually has an important meaning in the game. So, yeah.
Hello. My question's just to sort of try and connect up some different things that you touched on in the talk for me, and just to sort of get a little bit more depth, maybe in you've observed this strong impact the game has had, and you said that's a big success, and I wondered, in your mind, to what extent do the meta elements of the story contribute to that impact?
Okay, good question. I would say that it's different for across players. Some find it as a thing that has been necessary to tell the story because it gives weight to what these characters have gone through. Because at some point we reveal in the game near the ending that they've done this like 500 times over and over, not getting the best outcome. And in the end, the only outcome you could get is like a trade-off of things. That is why when you look up Until Then endings, usually you would see like good ending, bad ending in other games, right? In ours, there's no good ending. It's only true ending. So in a way, this time loop thing that we did reinforces that point. Reinforces that point through repetition. That no matter what you do, it's gonna be this, like the theme that we wanted to deliver. So some players did see that, while others may have seen it as laborious or like non-essential. So with all things that are experimental or meta, you can expect some things like that. So it's like a matter of trying to make it as clear as possible without being too much on the nose. Yeah.
Hello. Thanks very much for the talk. That's very informative. I was just wondering, out of curiosity, because you mentioned that there were some people that just played the first playthrough, and then there was a stat you mentioned around people that went all the way through. Did anybody sort of like get off the bus at the second playthrough, and like, or did you find that once they started again, they went all the way through?
Yeah. So they did like. We know this because we have an achievement each time. Oh, sorry, it's not there anymore. We have an achievement, a Steam achievement each time the player finishes a playthrough. So we have 3 achievements for that, for each playthrough. And yeah, you would see the percentages. And what we found the last time I looked at it was second and third playthrough, I think was like 36% and then 34%. So it's very close. Like once a player goes through the first playthrough, most likely they're going to finish the whole thing. So that's what we saw. Statistics. I think, to add to that, I think what made that happen, what made them push to the very end was, it's shorter. Because we didn't want to make it as long as the first one because, again, repetition could be laborious. So we made it more, we made it tighter in those later sections.
Okay, this one is a slightly more stupid question, but I really wanted to ask a developer this. There's a background sound in the game. I think like when you're in the house, in the neighborhood and stuff, that kind of just sounds like, I don't know if it's an animal or someone just kind of doing like a really weird long scream. And I was just really curious if you know what that is. I don't know if what sound, I don't know if you know which sound I'm thinking about. It's like every 30 seconds or something, every 30 seconds or so, something will go like, in a really weird way that really took me out. And I had no idea what was going on. And I don't know if that's like a Philippines animal or something.
I doubt it, but which scene was that? Do you remember like the context?
I think it was in many scenes where you're like at I forget the main character's name, but at his house. I think in many scenes around the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I know what that is. That would be Filipinos loving singing, doing karaoke every day.
Oh, it's karaoke. Okay.
So yeah, they're just screaming their hearts out, annoying neighbors. Yeah, we love to do that. So.
Okay. Okay, great. I was really confused by that, and I really wanted to know. Thank you.
Love it. Love that question.
Hi, great talk. This is more of a silly question, I guess. But were you at any point concerned about other people spoiling the content of the second and third playground to people who were content with playing the first playground?
Yeah, because if you love the first playthrough, imagine you just finished it and you think it's one of the best things ever. You go on the internet to, hopefully have someone to talk about it, how cool it is. But you're gonna inevitably end up talking to other people like, have you actually finished it? So yes, that is a concern. I don't know. Unfortunately, there's probably nothing we can do about that because I guess that's just how the internet works. And all these people who encourage you to keep playing just loved it until the end. So I guess it's bound to happen. But yeah, we did talk about that, and we just faced it that there's probably nothing we can do about it, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Not that it's a bad thing. Up there.
Hello. Was there ever consideration of when are you gonna tell the player that things are different, and were you thinking about if the second playthrough was at a later time? For example, I think you realize something is different if you remember the beginning of the game when they say the theme of the project. I think that's the first time that something has changed. Did you thought about it putting it later, or did you thought about it people are not gonna realize that things are different if they play like a year later?
Okay. It is immediately obvious. We designed it to be immediately obvious that something is up once you start the second playthrough. Because again, we designed this not to have the continue yes or no prompt. So if we were not gonna have that prompt, we figured that we must make the player realize that this is new. So like the point was to make them feel intrigued. Like, what is going on? This is not, I'm replaying this, but things are not exactly the same. It's like Groundhog Day. It's not, something that was here is not there. Like something changed, like small details changed. That's exactly what we did. So when you come from playthrough 1 and then go to playthrough 2, it's gonna be like mostly the same, but eerily different. Like, why is this here? Why is this thing that is here now was not there before? So we made it immediately obvious under the pretext that we were not going to have that continue yes or no prompt, but we did. So yeah.
And did you thought about the thing that if the second playthrough was at a later time, or do you think they will remember?
So the question is like, when were we hoping for them to realize?
Yes.
Right?
Or when we were hoping, you were thinking that they will replay it immediately, or do you think that some
okay,
people
okay,
maybe
okay.
later?
We were not, originally, before that, again, that continued prompt, we were not hoping for anything at all. Like, it really is just up to them whether they continue the game or not. It could be that they haven't accepted the ending of the first one, or it could be that they didn't like it at all. And that's okay. So yeah, originally, oh, here's a funny story, actually, since we're talking about this. One player loved until then, loved playthrough 1, apparently. They don't engage with the community. They're not on Reddit, they're not on Discord, anything like that. And then, after a year, I think, they said they got back into the game, and they're like, what is happening? What is going on? That is the intended experience we wanted. Like, no expectations of replaying whatsoever. We were not hoping for any of that. But that was just like one of the funny stories. Since they did not engage, no one told them that there's going to be more, so that's a really cool reaction. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. I don't know if I can talk about the DLC, about the history, because it's a spoiler, but I would like to know why do you choose that kind of approach of the history of the DLC?
Oh, we're talking about After Images?
Yes.
What about After Images? Sorry.
The story, I think, is. But I don't know why do you choose that kind of approach of the history?
Right. Okay. Yeah. It was unrelenting, right? I'm assuming you've played it until the end, and I'm assuming you have mixed feelings about it. That's totally fine. We expected that. We wanted to do something more mature, like the tones of it. Like to a lot of people who had mixed feelings about the DLC, they felt that it was very grim, right? Very like, it removes all the hope, all the messaging about hope that we did from the base game. And now you're giving me this? Well, how dare you, right? So what we really hoped there was for players to remember that there are like hundreds of timelines, and we're showing one of those early ones where things were really super bad. So like the true ending is like somewhere like at the very end, while the DLC is something. It's more of a prequel, really. So it takes place at a point very early on where things are dire, and we're showing it like just the raw direness of it. And what we hoped for players to catch is the butterfly at the end. Sorry, we're talking about very specific things here, but yeah, the butterfly at the end, which is supposed to portray that, it hasn't ended yet. It's gonna keep going on. So no matter, like at that point, it didn't matter how dire the situation was. It was gonna go on, and that eventually it's gonna lead to the true ending. So yes, we wanted to be more braver with our writing. We wanted to do something new. We did not want to just do fan service, right? For fan service's sake. So yeah, we were just simply exploring what kind of new work we can lay ground on as writers, as a team. So yeah. The mixed feelings are totally fine. Well, yeah, that's like the intention behind it. Now you know.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Hi. So by introducing a very novel approach to the narrative or a very new mechanic or something like that, how much of a risk do you think there is of that, let's say, gimmick overpowering the initial thematic intent of the game? And instead of being a game about, in this case, acceptance, end up being a game about the mechanic itself of reintroducing a story, a replay mechanic, or anything of that nature?
Yeah. So very early on, of course, we talked about it, and we are well aware of this risk that if you were just to stop at the first one and then never play again, like, what would you think of it, right? So yeah, the way we offset that risk is just making a really good story that acts independently, that is its whole own story. So playthrough one is not actually, you could just play playthrough one and just, that's it. Just be okay with it or love it. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So in some of the Steam reviews, I read them and it's like, I finished the game and I love it. I love things like that. And then they're obviously, you know, as I'm reading that, this is obviously just playthrough one, and that's okay. So yes, that's how we offset the risk. We know that there's a risk that they might not like what we're doing, but again, if you just deliver a really great experience, even if it's just part of the game, then it will be complete for them, and they think it was complete, so that's how we did it. Yeah. It's very unorthodox, but okay, I guess no more questions. All right, well, thank you very much.